by Pastor Shannon Wright, who has some thoughts on this. We're going to get her thoughts on this. And it is a serious topic, definitely. So we're coming to the end of the summer, I suppose. Are we at the end of the hot weather? Is this the end of the heat wave? We've been definitely having a heat wave. I don't know if this is the end though. I think that there's a little bit more left, but we're gonna on the other side of the break, we're gonna talk to Pastor Shannon Wright and get another perspective on the death of this Department of Public Works employee, Ronald Silver II, and moreover, talk about some safety measures that need to be put in place for folks that do this union work here in Baltimore. You listen to the Diamond K Show on fire-tv.com. We'll be back right after this.
Visit OnFireTV.com for live top stories, breaking news, and original shows.
Welcome back. You man Diamond K in here, of course, the Diamond K Show. OnFire-TV.com is where you go. Of course, you can advertise on our shows, social media posting, digital commercials, links to your products, etc., etc. You can get that information at onfire-tv.com. You can support the Diamond K Show and what we do here via paypal.me/radio on fire. Of course, on Cash App, it is $the Diamond K Show. And you can become a member, get exclusive content, as well as supporting our efforts here on fire-tv.com/join. So on the other side, we're talking about this DPW worker who passed away, heat-related conditions, and city and union leaders are now seeking more protections for Baltimore's DPW workers. I'm going to be joined by Pastor Shannon Wright. Pastor, are you there?
I am here. I am here.
How are you doing?
I am well, thank you. And how are you? And part two, thank you for having me on tonight.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when talking about this worker whose life has been tragically lost, and I've heard you call this death avoidable.
Yes.
The death of this DPW worker. So as far as this situation, what are your thoughts on it?
So it's interesting to me, regardless to whatever Mayor Scott says, someone in the city's employ doing his job is no longer with us. And I do honestly believe it was avoidable. We talk a lot in the news today about quality of life issues and things of that nature. And we expect those that handle quality of life issues like DPW to do their best for us. And we need to make sure and hold the mayor accountable that he's doing his best by them so we can all win. This man didn't win. He lost his life.
Yeah, that is true. And so how can folks hold the mayor, his administration, and the powers that be at DPW? How can they be held accountable, in your opinion?
So In my opinion, the way that they're held accountable is very simple. Folks had been complaining about the work conditions, right?
Right.
And that was denied. And then we had issues where the inspector general was called in and did investigations. So clearly there was an issue that was enough that rose to the standard of having an investigation done. Now, when she says there are issues at multiple stations, there are issues with um, uh, multiple policies with regards to the conditions that people are working in, and then the city says, oh no, it's fine, it's not really that bad, and then someone dies not a week later. That's unacceptable.
Now, according to Mayor Scott, he says that we are making the investments. And he also says that some of the conditions, like at Cherry Hill, were long before he was in office, and it's not, it's not his fault. He needs more time to get this stuff together.
So, okay, when we talk about Mayor Scott, here's the interesting thing. He talks about neglect that he's inherited, but this is a man that's had every job at City Hall except dog catcher over the last 10 years, at least. So you're telling me that in your time as a city council person, no, let's go back further, as a clerk, then as a city council person, then as council president, and now as mayor, you couldn't figure out how to get some air conditioning and some water for DPW workers? I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, it's definitely enough time, and especially when we have these men and women working under conditions under a code red, which is an extreme heat alert, with the index surpassing 100 degrees. These are bare minimum things, right? You talk about the millions and millions of dollars that they are going to put on this or put on that. These are the bare minimum things: air conditioning and liquids to drink, and just procedures if someone is having a medical emergency, and those type of things.
I am very disappointed in the outcome, in the way that the city treats its employees and yet expects excellence from them. I don't even understand that. But so folks have an issue. Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna just be straight to the point. I'm trying to figure out how to be politically correct, but you know what? I can't seem to do that. So you can find 16 point some odd $1 million to lease office space, but you can't find enough money to get a cooler and some water and ice for folks that work in places where the air conditioning isn't working. I
Right.
find it hard to believe.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is definitely something that is surprising. The medical examiner saying that he died of hypothermia, meaning that his body overheated, and this is definitely not something that should be happening. Uh, and so, folks have been saying things like there's a toxic culture at DPW, and things like that. Um, where would you start with something like this? If you were the mayor today, where would you even begin?
Begin with making sure that city employees are not working in subhuman conditions. And I think, you apply a little bit of common sense. If we can spend millions of dollars on some frivolous stuff, you got to at least be able to take care of folks you expect to take care of the city. That's number one. Let's make sure that folks aren't working in places where there's no proper air circulation. Let's make sure folks actually have access to toilet paper, which, according to the report, there are facilities where people don't even have toilet paper. Come on now. So, first thing, make sure folks have the resources to feel human when they go to work. Second thing, make sure folks have the resources to actually be able to do their jobs in a healthy manner. And third, stop playing games with saying there are no problems when clearly there are issues and problems. We have to, we have become so desensitized in the city.
Yeah.
We have to get back to a place where we strive for excellence from those that work to help make the city better and those we elect to run the city. There is no way that in this day and age, we should have an inspector general report be the tool that opens folks' eyes to the inhumane conditions that these folks are being forced to work under. That's unacceptable. That comes from leadership. That's Brandon.
Yeah, that definitely comes from leadership. That Inspector General report that you're talking about noted, especially that Cherry Hill Reedbird Yard workers have been working in heat, uh, in extreme conditions, without the city providing proper cooling, water, et cetera, et cetera. And the governor, Westmore, said that there's going to be a state investigation into Silver's death. He's going to be holding the DPW accountable. Is this acceptable? Is this a good first step or good next step, in your opinion, from the governor?
I think it's a necessary next step. I just, again, think it is unfortunate that this is where we are. Mayor Scott, in this reelection cycle, has been in so many facilities and so many buildings. You're telling me he didn't know? Personally, that he didn't know? When you're in leadership, you don't keep passing the buck. You take ownership and responsibility. So for me to sit here and believe that he had no idea that things were this bad, one, I don't buy it. Because if that is the case, then he absolutely should not be mayor. Because if you can't if you can't do something as simple as make sure your folks are not working in unhealthy conditions, how do we trust that you're going to then lead in a way that's beneficial for the rest of us? No. That's number one. Number two, the fact that once again, Baltimore City is in a position where someone from outside has to come in to help get the house in order is another failure of leadership. And let's look at that for a second. If we have a mayor that is actually in control, has his finger on the pulse of what's going on at his agencies, then the governor should not have to launch a statewide or a state investigation into, again, something that's going on here in Baltimore City. And I have to say this to the listeners and to the voters. We have to be the ones to decide when enough is enough, because we can get as upset as we want to get. But when you keep voting the same folk in office, and by saying, I don't care if the names are different, the same philosophy coming from the same school of thought, you're going to get more of the same. And now, because of that, someone has lost his life. And we still want to pass the buck? No, no, unacceptable.
All right. So you've been talking about the election. You are running for mayor of Baltimore, and you are Republican. How can folks find out more about your campaign, support what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera?
So you can go to our website, which is right number 4 Maryland.com. You can find us on Facebook, Right for Baltimore. You can find me on Twitter, on Instagram, same thing across the board. Folks, listen, there's a couple of things that we have to do to take ownership of what's going on in the city. See, we can't just keep putting this all on Brandon. We have to, one, make sure if we're able to vote, that we're registered and do so. Because our ancestors lost blood, sweat, and tears for us to have the right to do that. So we need to register and we need to vote. And doggone it, everybody needs to do your homework. Whether you vote for me, you vote for Brandon, or you write somebody in, do your homework. Your vote has value. Your vote is your voice. That voice, through your vote, says more than anything you can write in a social media post. Get registered, do your homework, and vote. We have the power to change the direction this city is going in.
So I assume that you say that the city is going in the wrong direction.
Absolutely it is. Homicides for the first time may be under 300, but let's look at juvenile crime. Let's look at how out of control that is. Let's look at our public schools and how broken they are. Let's look at the public and sometimes not so public and sometimes very public feuds between the mayor the sheriff, the police, the prosecutor. We are absolutely going in the wrong direction. That's not what good leadership looks like. And I understand Brandon says he's a son of the city and has never left the city. Well, maybe he needs to leave the city for a little bit to see what a solution looks like. Because clearly his time as a clerk, as a councilman, as council president, and now mayor has not served us well.
All right. So, again, folks want to learn more about Pastor Shannon Wright. They can visit Wright4, that's the number 4, Maryland.com. We got the website up on the screen. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
Yes, we have been plagued. What did Malcolm X say? Hoodwinked, bamboozled, Plymouth Rock. We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. We have allowed ourselves to be forced back into the second coming of slavery by folks that look like us. We have the right to demand a quality of life. We have the right to demand a better future for our children. We have the basic bare right to demand that in the city where we all live, that we are safe. And we are not having that happen because we continue to elect folks that by their actions show they do not have our best interest at heart. It's time that you value your family, your neighborhood, your community, and use your vote accordingly for your best interest, as those you've elected have used your vote for their best interest.
Okay. Would you be interested in a debate with Mayor Scott,
Yeah,
or is
absolutely.
that something that you wouldn't want to do?
No, absolutely. What you do in the dark comes out in the light. Let's bring on the light.
Yeah, yeah. So that would be interesting. How have your folks had any talks with his with regards to a debate?
We've had some talks with some of the media outlets. Um, you know how when you watch the news and folks say we've asked, you know, Brandon Scott's administration, Mayor Scott's administration, and we have yet to hear back, and we'll let you know when we do. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm gonna tell you this: I am a strong backbone Black woman, and I ain't going nowhere, and I'm not gonna be quiet. So he can keep running and ducking and hiding all he wants to, but I'm gonna keep making noise because this city deserves somebody to stand up for them. I am a mother, I am a grandmother, I am a wife. I know what it means to have children that you want to make sure go out in the morning and come back in with all the same working body parts they left with. We need someone that's gonna put that kind of an emphasis on turning this city around. We ain't got that right now. When Brandon matures, hopefully he would have that ability to be a great leader. Right now, not so much, and we don't have time to wait.
All right. We've been listening to Pastor Shannon Wright. She is running for mayor here in Baltimore. The website again is Wright4. That is the number 4, Maryland.com. I really appreciate you talking with me, and definitely we're going to talk again before November.
Thank you for having me on. Folks,
Absolutely.
register, do your homework, and vote.
Thanks again, Pastor.
Thank you.
All right, folks. So that was Pastor Shannon.